And now I'm here with Adrian, the host of this event, Innovation Digital Summit Africa 2019, right? And then he's from Extensia. He's a Chief Operating Officer. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
First of all, what's Extensia? And then what makes this year unique? Because this is the fourth time happening in Addis and the 17th time this summit happening in Africa. Sure. So what makes this one unique? And just tell us a little bit about your company as well.
Of course. Well, Extensia, just a brief background, we've been organising the IAD Summit for the last 17 years. And the strategy for developing the programme for the event is to look at what's happening in the industry, what's the next stages of development, and what needs to be done for countries and companies to achieve those next objectives. This particular year, we're looking at national agenda acceleration, because we're seeing that in Africa there are many countries that are quite low down on the ICT affordability rankings, the connectivity rankings, and the maturity rankings for ICT development. So the agenda looks at how can the governments in those countries accelerate that development as they look towards the 2030 Millennium Development objectives that a lot of countries are looking to achieve. ICT is a foundation. It's a cornerstone and a foundation for the development goals that countries need to achieve. And so the summit is looking at how governments can engage the operators, the service providers, the infrastructure providers, the investors, to support the acceleration of their national.
You brought up a really great point about how the low index on so many measures when it comes to ICT, and Africa as a continent and individual countries actually they can skew the number even more so. And in Ethiopia, unfortunately, is on the lowest on by any measure of ICT maturity. So this is really timely thing. And then what makes it really exciting is that right now the whole thing is reimagined here in Ethiopia. Monopolized telecom is going for liberalisation, and that's happening. So what is your reaction on that, and then what do you foresee to come up from this movement now?
So we've, as you said, we've organised this event 4 times in Ethiopia. That doesn't highlight the fact that the first time was in 2012. So we've seen a lot of development between 2012 and now. And we understood the reasoning behind not liberalising the market was that commercial companies are perhaps more prone to developing the commercial areas, and the government in Ethiopia has always been focused on supporting the socio-economic development and covering areas that are not necessarily profitable but still need the connectivity. The reality is that a dynamic and competitive marketplace drives that growth faster and will encourage international investment into Ethiopia. And what we've seen with since Ministry of Innovation and Technology have taken responsibility in this area, and we actually partnered with the Ministry of Innovation and Technology to host this event. It gave them an opportunity to engage with the international community. As you know, there's many things happening, and it's happening very fast. The proclamation is just going through Parliament now. They're looking already in parallel. They are developing the strategy in parallel with the proclamation coming through, already engaging with the international community. And we know that the international community is looking at Ethiopia with very enthusiastic eyes. That they'll have an opportunity to take part in the marketplace, and that's a sign in itself that Ethiopia presents a valuable opportunity to the industry, and you can be assured as a result of that, if the ministry, in the way that they're approaching this, Ministry of Finance and all of the related departments, create that competitive environment, but a sustainably competitive environment. The ultimate winners will be the people of Ethiopia with improved connectivity and all of the benefits that that brings.
Awesome. I asked the potential future service providers this question, and I'm going to ask you to get your opinion. As you said, you alluded in your previous point, mostly covering, reaching out to the last mile in the rural areas, the off-grid areas. might not necessarily be that much profitable. Actually, might even end up very expensive because you have to create that bottom-up innovation and off-grid systems and all that, and then it's making it sustainable is not easy. And on the other side, a national operator might be able to reach out to its citizens even though it might not be profitable. How can we strike that balance? Why they come here to make money? Of course, it's very understandable, and optimizing service for the users, and it's a win-win situation. But in the process, what I've been advocating up to now, and I'm going to continue to do that, is that I don't want the digital divide to widen, because unless we are addressing the off-grid community, because Ethiopia, 80% of Ethiopian population lives in the rural area. So what is your opinion as a platform, as an organizer, as a connector, as Extensia, what is your opinion to address that kind of potential issue, and then how do we strike a balance, and what should be the national operators or the government's position to cooperate and collaborate to make this happen?
I don't want to say it's quite simple, because it isn't. Like you say, the commercial companies have shareholders that they have to make happy, and that their boards, they have to show profits. But it is shown that when rural connectivity is done well, that there is an opportunity, a business opportunity, and a viable business opportunity there. And it's a procession of value. So again, from the government's perspective, one of the things they can do to make sure it is done is it can be part of the license agreement. You don't get a license without agreeing to perform full coverage of the country. You can't only operate in the commercially viable areas. You can also, through a universal service fund, operators can contribute to that fund, which then helps to develop infrastructure. Universal service funds in other countries in Africa, they're not always effective, but done well. And it's interesting, I spoke to a few regulators in Africa and talked about this summit, and they said, we'd love to have a blank canvas and start from ground zero and build it, because of the lessons learned, to be able to start now fresh. Ethiopia has a great opportunity, and I know that the government's been very strong at engaging with international community, the ITU, and with the other agencies that can guide them in the areas of development. They have the opportunity now to put that regulation in place, which means that the operators have to. So even though they have to report to their shareholder, well, this is something that they have to do. They have to have this rural coverage. It does, in the long term, provide them an opportunity for revenue generation. Those people do spend money, might not have much, but as the connectivity improves and the community can start to do things with that connectivity, then the ARPUs improve and the revenues improve, etc. And with developments in technology, it's now cheaper to connect those rural areas. There are infrastructure companies that can that have developed technology specifically around connecting rural areas. And with things like infrastructure sharing, those kind of policies that the government is looking into, there's an opportunity there to make it even more economically viable. So there are opportunities there that will enable this, and it can be enforced through regulatory and policy stipulations.
That's my hope too. And Adrian, thank you so much for being here, and thank you for pulling off such a great event.
Thank you very much. So
thank
it's
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Nice to see you.